is why I call it life legally blind, because it's life legally blind. It's not just going to the store legally blind or being in a relationship legally blind. It's life legally blind. Hey loves, it's A back on your screen with another one. Hope you're all well. In this one, I don't even know how to title it because the vibe I'm trying to give is the things they don't tell you when you're initially diagnosed that they should. If I was diagnosed yesterday as opposed to 11 years ago, these are a couple things I'd want to know. So I wanted to share them with you, whether you're newly diagnosed or you've been living with this eye disease for a minute too. I hope you enjoy. If you do, tap the like, comment below which of these things you wish you knew when you were diagnosed or you're happy to know now, and let's go. The first thing is perhaps the most important one, and that is vision loss. It's not just vision loss, it's the process of losing. I've mentioned this idea before in other videos as it relates to losing your sense of self, what you thought your life would be, could be, should be, and just how you've formulated the world around you based on sight. Like, losing vision is not just, okay, you're blind. It's the process of losing that really sucks. I wish someone had told me that the day that they diagnosed me. I also wish that they paired me up with a therapist. I think everyone who has been diagnosed with a degenerative eye disease should be paired up with a therapist. I look at it, and let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm going off the ledge, but I think of it as a trauma, okay? To me, trauma with a capital T or a little t is anything that you've gone through that has an effect on you. Definitely, eye diseases fall under that category because, as per the second thing that I think they should tell you, it is so important that you are aware that, hey, this is not just a one-time occurrence that has a lasting effect. This is something that's ongoing that has a lasting effect. So always having to constantly adapt and change and reflect on who you are as a person is a lot of work. And losing vision, it's not just the one and done. It's the constant feeling of like, is it gonna get worse? How much worse is it gonna get? Okay, it's worse today, so what do I gotta do to make life livable? Like, anytime you think you get it, at least in my experience, a couple weeks pass, months, maybe a year if you're lucky, and it gets worse again, and you're like, okay, so I gotta zoom in more, I gotta lean in closer, I gotta buy a new device or tech or whatever it is. The second thing is low vision or legal blindness is a layer on top of everything. Going to the store, you're legally blind. Going on a date, you're legally blind. In a relationship, you're legally blind. Out with your friends, you legally blind. Trying to pay for things, you legally blind. Getting ready for the day, you legally blind. Cleaning up your house, oh, you blind. Like, everything under the sun, you're legally blind. Let's just take away like the things that are actually difficult, just regular schmegular everyday things. Now add the layer of icing of losing vision. There is not a single day since I've been diagnosed that I haven't thought about my vision loss. You know, you think maybe it's on the back of your mind, you don't think of it from time to time, you just get used to it. No, every freaking day, something reminds me, usually in the first 15 minutes, girl, you blind. I forget sometimes that I'm visually impaired, and you would think, how? You've been living with this disease for so long. But I still have an identity of being someone who could see perfectly until 19. So a lot of how I identify myself, and I'm sure you do too, is split between almost two separate lives and dualities. When you're legally blind, you have to remind yourself time and time again that you can't just pick up a book and read it, or a bottle and see the label, or just see your phone or whatever. Like, everything requires an extra step or 10 to get something done. Now, when we switch it to the difficult things, you know, finding a partner and building a healthy relationship, finding a job that really works for you and is accessible and they assist with what you need, living in an accessible neighborhood, acquiring the things and experiences you want out of life. You legally blind. Like, you can't overlook that. It's something that's going to be the underpinning and the overarching tone of your life. I know it's a kind of harsh thing to say, but I think it needs to be said because it really does change everything. I didn't even think of that when I was initially diagnosed, but I wish someone was like, girl, be aware. Another one no one really talks about is being legally blind is expensive, okay? Let's just put it this way. I'm an Applehead, but if I wasn't legally blind, I probably wouldn't have these devices. I do because they're very accessible and they're super easy to use. I used to be a phone head. Every year I'd get a new phone, and it was an Apple back in the day, okay? But ever since my vision got bad, I've been leaning towards Apple products because of how they zoom in so seamlessly, and the magnification app is pretty good. And there's a lot of other apps you can download that are really good for day-to-day life and lifestyle type of things. With that said, a lot of things about being blind ain't free. Like if you want to get the Eastside Eyewear or the Vision Buddy, that ish ain't cheap. If you want to get a phone that has a larger screen, that ain't cheap. If you want to get a smart whatever, TV, fridge, stove, anything that's going to help make your life easier, it costs extra coins. Something they should probably tell you when you're initially diagnosed, that you need to save and spend very wisely, because there's going to be unexpected costs, not just from tech, but also from, living in an accessible part of the city, or paying extra for transportation because you can no longer drive. There's so many extra costs. I personally would not live in this neighborhood if I wasn't visually impaired. It's just really accessible for me, and it's also safe. If I could see perfectly, I would live in the suburbs. A, I would drive, so commuting wouldn't be a problem. And B, I'd have the space to thrive and grow and not hear the dog barking next door. There have been changes and sacrifices made in my life, and I'm sure in yours, that involve coin or choice. It can cost you in those two ways. The next two things that they should tell you when you're diagnosed, I was told, not the first day, but early on in my legally blind journey. The first is that tech is your best friend. I remember when my optometrist ran through all of the assisted devices, I was like, whoa. This is a lot. Not only is it a lot expensive, it's a lot of options, a lot of different ways and functionalities of getting things done. You know me, I use my iPhone because that still stands to be the best thing for me, but I have videos on here of different devices and tech that can help you day to day. We live in an era where this is the best time to be blind. Like being blind 20 years ago, when there was no internet or no magnification apps or no e-readers, that was difficult. It's only going to get better with the technology that makes things more accessible for us. You have to be careful what you eat. Either you should eat more of some things or less of others. And I also have a video on here and in my Sight series where I tell you what are good things to lean towards if you have Stargardt disease and other retinal macular degenerative diseases. It's like aging. I remember seeing a specialist about one thing, and then we started discussing my vision loss, and she said, you know what? Like a lot of my other clients who have arthritis, they talk to me about the same feeling of being one way and then now being another way, where you were capable of one thing and now you're no longer. She said the best advice I can give for you is detaching your identity. It's not easy. It's something I've been doing, and she told me this January 2020, so I was already living with the eye disease for a decade. But I've been using that day by day, especially on the difficult days, to remind myself that I'm not who I was. It's something that is perhaps the most difficult advice I can give you guys, but it is also the most empowering. You can also flip it the other way. When you think of the five senses, usually vision is the one to go fastest and first. So we kind of got a jump start we never asked for with losing vision. Another thing I wish that they told you is this is going to give you a deeper sense of gratitude, not just for those around you, but your senses. You're going to pay attention to sounds, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste 10 times more. I don't really believe when they say your senses get heightened necessarily. I just think you have to lean on them more and pay attention to them more. Speaking for myself here, I wouldn't be able to appreciate a really soft sweater or the smell of a really delicious candle if I hadn't lost so much vision. I'm sure no specialist will ever tell you this, but I'm going to. Focusing on a cure is going to kill you. Okay, that's a little extreme, but I've got way too many DMs over the last couple years from people who you can tell from the tone of the text that they are stressed and pressed. And I know I've been distressed too. There was a time in my life where all I cared about was a cure, and it consumed me. This is why I'm saying that energy needs to go. I don't want you guys out here feeling like there's nothing to life and nothing more unless there's a cure. I've been there before. It's probably the worst feelings you can have as it relates to losing vision. Don't do it to yourself. Go on clinicaltrials.gov from time to time, just so you're on top of things, but don't obsess the way that I did. Don't make it your only thing that you see laser focus. The people around you are gonna change. they, just like you, are going to go through a life change. On one hand, there's a beauty in it where you see there's a lot of humility and humanity left in the world. On the other side, you see there's a lack thereof. I've had both sides of the spectrum where I've seen people be so compassionate to me that were horrible to other people, and it doesn't sit well with me. On the other side, I've seen my story help other people feel comfortable telling their stories. I've also seen and felt a deeper level of connection with those that I can truly confide in. Like I've said before, you will never know if you're not visually impaired what it's like to live life legally blind. It doesn't mean you can't have an understanding and try to meet someone halfway, but you will never know what it's like. I know in my experience, I don't help because I make it look easy, and a lot of people forget I'm blind the same way I forget I'm blind. People are going to really show you who they are, and that can be good or bad. I've had it from family, I've had it from friends, I've had it from coworkers, I've had it from every department of my life. I think those are the top things that they should tell you. I'm sure there's plenty more, so if you want to add to the list, leave it down below. If you haven't already, subscribe for more videos. And until next time, stay safe, stay sane, stay blessed. Love and later.